Hey, I heard you have debts, is that true? Debts? Why are you asking that? Why? Can't you just tell me if it's true or not? When I asked about the debt, my husband's expression changed dramatically. This was because his father had asked him to pay for his mother-in-law's hospital bills, and he had told me that he couldn't ask because he had debts. I hadn't heard anything about this, and I confronted my husband when he got home. Who told you that? Anyway, it's not like I'm bothering you with it, so it doesn't concern you. Who do you think you are, being a woman and all? Why are you getting angry? I don't understand. It's because you're being persistent. When will you understand your place? You're living off me, so stop complaining all the time. So, that's how he thought. But now, I've completely moved on. The timing was perfect. I've decided to leave him. I can't be happy with someone like this, and I don't plan on ruining my life anymore. Shortly after, I moved into an apartment in a prime location, taking advantage of the times my husband was at work to move out. Then, that night. Hello? Where are you at this hour? Why haven't you done any housework or cooked any meals? I received an angry call from my husband, who knew nothing. Of course, I hadn't told him anything, so I figured he must be pretty angry. But I had anticipated this. I'm going to live on my own from now on. I've left the divorce papers on the table, so check them, I said, and he hung up in a rage, but the divorce went through smoothly. And so, a week went by without any contact from my husband. Hello. I have something to talk about, come home. Huh? I don't want to talk to you, and I don't want to go. If you have something to say, can't you just say it over the phone? It's important. How come you're the one paying for Mom's hospital bills? My name is Mary, and I currently work as a designer. After graduating from vocational school, I started working at a design firm, and now I'm an independent freelance designer. Of course, it took a significant amount of time to start getting work as a freelance designer, but now I'm able to earn a decent living. Where do you want to go for our honeymoon? Let's see. You're busy with work, and I've got a lot on my plate recently, so how about a domestic trip? I'd really like to go to somewhere warm. I like beach too, so that sounds good. We met through work and got married after a 6-month dating period. I was already receiving work as a designer when we married, and I was in the midst of happiness. Alright, I'll be off then. I'd like steak today, please. And could you make 3 side dishes, kind of like a course meal? Got it. Work hard, then. Since I often worked from home, I was basically in charge of all the household chores and meals. I didn't mind that itself, but what I started to feel right after we got married was my husband's demanding nature. No matter how busy I was, he wouldn't accept fewer than 5 dishes in his dinner, and frozen food or leftovers were a no-go. Maybe he's just particular about food, but it became a pain on days I was busy with work. However, I didn't want to worsen our relationship over such minor issues, so I didn't complain. A year flew by quickly, and our relationship had stabilized significantly. We got along well with his parents, who visited us about once a month. It's been a year since you've been married. How's life going? If you have any complaints, feel free to tell us anytime. I don't really have any complaints, so it's all good. He's been selfish since he was young. I was worried about whether he could manage married life well. We're always on your side, so if anything comes up, don't hesitate to contact us. His parents were generally supportive of me, so I had no complaints about that. Of course, it would be a lie to say there were absolutely no issues in our marriage. However, if anything came up, I could always talk to his parents for support. Being able to feel this way allowed me to live without overthinking too much. As our marriage was approaching its 3rd year. I'll be home late today, so don't worry about dinner. What? Late again? You said you wanted beef stew, so I started preparing it this afternoon. If you were gonna be late, you could have let me know a bit earlier. If he was going to be late for work, It was unlikely that I would be able to contact him so soon. My frustration had been building up recently, as he often did not return home until late at night, even when I made him dinner as requested. Having worked in an office myself, I understand that sudden overtime happens. So, I don't intend to blame him for that. I know it might be difficult to contact me earlier, but I still couldn't reconcile my feelings with the situation. I wish he'd consider my efforts a bit more. Despite being busy with my job as a designer and taking care of the household chores, I took the time in the afternoon to prepare the beef stew. Even if he was going to be late, a simple apology would have been nice. That's what I thought. However, the words that came out of my husband's mouth only added insult to injury. It can't be helped, right? It was decided on the spur of the moment that we'd go out for drinks. Going out for drinks? Wait a minute. I'd understand if it were overtime at work, but prioritizing drinking over family? It's not a big deal, right? It's not like I do it every day. Everyone needs to blow off some steam occasionally. I don't have a problem with him taking a break now and then. I don't want to restrict my husband's actions that much, nor do I intend to. But, this time it's different. Making me go through the trouble of cooking a complex meal only to come up with such a selfish reason is unacceptable. Aren't you being too selfish? If I knew you were going out to drink, I wouldn't have gone through all this trouble cooking. Can't you consider my feelings a little? You could try to understand the stress I'm under from work. And to think a woman would dare stand up to a man like me, you've got some nerve. Here it comes, this is where it ends. He looks down on me just because he's a man. As far as I'm concerned, so what if you're a man? That really shouldn't matter. We're a married couple, there's no superior between us. If my husband was paying all the bills and doing all the housework, then it would be strange for me to complain. But I'm the one doing all the housework and cooking, and I'm contributing to the bills too. Yet, how can he act so superior? Maybe he's always had a domineering personality, but there's a limit to my patience. I hardly have any free time, trying my best for him, and it's just not fair if he does whatever he pleases. Stop being so selfish and think about me for once. Realizing that talking to my husband would only lead to an argument, I quickly hung up the phone. Of course, even if we argue, I don't think I'm in the wrong, but I wished he would cool off and think a bit. Not to look down on others, but to consider the feelings of someone else. However, his attitude never improved, in fact, it got worse. Hey! You are making me eat yesterday's leftover, aren't you? Yes, but I had no choice, right? You went out for drinks on your own yesterday, and dinner was left over. What were you thinking? I've explained it's disrespectful to me, the breadwinner. How many times do I have to say it? Don't you think it's disrespectful to go out drinking without a thought when someone is at home preparing dinner? It's amazing you can function in society without understanding such a simple thing. Normally, I wouldn't say this much, but lately, even the slightest thing he does irritates me. He might not change his behavior, thinking the world revolves around him. And then, even though I was feeling stressed, I had nowhere to vent. I used to think I could talk to my husband's parents if anything came up, but it seems his mother has been unwell lately, and we've hardly seen each other. It doesn't seem to be life-threatening, but not having anyone to talk to has made my stress levels max out. One day, as I was doing the usual household chores, I got a call from my father-in-law. I'm sorry for contacting you out of the blue. I was wondering if we could meet. Is that okay? I have time, but is something wrong? There's something I need to talk about regarding my wife. Can I come over to your place? Okay then, I'll come to you. I'll get ready and leave, so I should arrive in about an hour, I said and hung up, but I couldn't help wondering what it was about my mother-in-law that needed discussing. I knew she had been unwell, but to discuss it. Worried about her, I hurried to my father-in-law's place. I hate to have you come all this way. It's okay, but what's happened? The thing is, my wife needs to be hospitalized. I had suspected as much, but to hear that her condition had worsened to this extent. Until now, outpatient treatment and medication had been sufficient, but it had come to the point where she needed to be hospitalized. According to my father-in-law, it's not yet life-threatening, but it was quite a shock. So, I'm really sorry to ask this, Mary, but could you help with the hospital bills? The thing is, that fool son of mine has debts. That's why we haven't been able to ask him. If my in-laws were financially struggling, I was more than willing to help. However, this was the first time I heard about my husband's debts. I had never heard about any debt, nor had he ever shown any signs of it. Whether the debt was from before our marriage or after, and what it was for. I was clueless and, along with my surprise, feelings of anger started to bubble up, but getting angry at my father-in-law wouldn't solve anything. I had no idea about the debt. What's going on? Well, we only found out recently ourselves. It seems he spent it on cars and nightclubs. Is that recent? I thought he had his car before we got married. I'm not sure when, but when we talked to him about the hospital bills, he said it was impossible because of his debts. I believe my father-in-law is telling me everything he knows. I didn't plan to press him further, but I couldn't help feeling furious. If it was a debt made before our marriage, he should have talked about it before we got married. That's common sense. And if it was after, why did he do it without any discussion? And nightclubs, that's not something you go into debt for. I could understand if the debt was for something necessary, like an accident or illness, but this just seems like wasteful spending. Since becoming a freelancer, I've been careful with financial management, which is why I'm so upset about my husband's actions. Of course, I don't mind if you said you couldn't help. I wouldn't say it's impossible. I can provide financial support, no problem. But could you keep this between us, without telling my husband? What? He tends to think he should be the top priority, so I think it's better not to tell him. This was my way of showing the utmost consideration. Not just about the debt, but I wanted to avoid making the situation worse. My mother-in-law's condition was getting worse, and my father-in-law was struggling mentally. If they heard that their son was causing trouble with me again, it would just add to their mental burden. I knew I had to have a serious talk with my husband, but I decided to prioritize my in-laws' well-being first. About 4 months later, a day came when my mother-in-law was finally about to be discharged from the hospital, so I decided to confront my husband about the debt. Hey, I heard you have debts, is that true? Huh? Debts? Why are you asking that? Why? Can't you just tell me if it's true or not? When I asked about the debt, my husband's expression changed dramatically. Of course, I didn't think my father-in-law was lying, so I wasn't surprised by my husband's reaction. But I had no idea how much he owed, or to whom he was indebted. All those details were still unknown to me. Who told you that? It doesn't matter, does it? More importantly, is it true you have debts? After all this time acting all high and mighty, what was that about? I could tell from his attitude that the debt was real, but his defensive response left a bad taste in my mouth. It was my husband who had secretly incurred the debt, so if anyone was to blame, it was him. I could understand if he apologized for the debt, but why the defensiveness? It's none of your business, I'm not bothering you. Who the hell do you think you are, a woman? Was this debt incurred before or after we got married? It doesn't matter. Don't pry into my personal life. Personal life? As if a word like that could dismiss the issue. Debt is not just a personal problem. Since we're married, it's my problem too. I haven't told my husband, but because he had debts, I ended up paying for my mother-in-law's hospital bills. With such consequences, why does he act as if he's done nothing wrong? Why are you getting angry? I don't understand. It's because you keep nagging. When will you understand your place? You're being supported by me, so stop complaining all the time. So, that's his mindset. But now, I've completely moved on. The timing is perfect. I've decided to leave him. I can't be happy with someone like this, and I don't plan on ruining my life any further. Well, sorry for being supported by you. I'll make sure to consider my position more carefully from now on, I said, and my husband seemed a bit satisfied. However, if he thinks I'm serious, he's sorely mistaken. Just wait a little longer for a rude awakening, be prepared. With that mindset, I headed straight to a certain place. I'm looking for a high-rise apartment in this area, please. It's going to be quite expensive, are you sure? Absolutely, it's no problem. I went to a real estate agency. I wanted to get away from my husband as soon as possible. The best way to do that, I thought, was to get out of that house, which was rented in my husband's name. And I wanted to get back at my husband, who completely looks down on me. Soon after, I moved into an apartment in a prime location, seizing the moment when my husband was at work to complete the move. Then, that night. Hello? Where are you at this hour? Why haven't you done any housework or cooked any meals? I received an angry call from my husband, who knew nothing. Of course, I hadn't told him anything, so I figured he must be pretty angry. But I had anticipated this. I'm going to live on my own from now on. I've left the divorce papers on the table, so check them. Huh? What are you talking about? Stop joking around. It's not like I'm joking. Plus, he probably hasn't noticed my stuff is gone. And I don't understand why he's angry. If you want me back, isn't it normal to bow down and ask? Well, I guess you can't ask for normal from people like this. Anyway, I decided to talk to my husband so I wouldn't get frustrated. I think you know this, but I have no intention of living with you anymore. Can you stop bothering me? I've reached my limit with our life together. You're irresponsible with money and can't build a proper marital relationship. It's obvious we can't go on like this, right? A woman like you doesn't get to decide that. Who do you think you are? Who do I think I am? That's my line. I don't know when he started thinking he was above me, but it's about time he understands his actual position. First off, I've been paying my share of the living expenses, so how are you in a higher position? I've always wondered when you became so important. I'm the man, so obviously I'm more important. What are you even saying now? I can't live with someone who has such outdated ideas. I want a divorce. I don't think anything I'm saying is unreasonable, do you? Fine, I'll give you your divorce. Designer or whatever you call yourself, you don't even make that much money. Don't come crying to me later. My husband hung up after his parting shot, but the one who will regret this isn't me, it's him. He has no idea how much I earn or that I've been the one paying for his mother's hospital bills until now. Well, even if he comes begging to get back together, my mind won't change. So, a week went by without any contact from my husband. Hello. I need to talk. Come over to the house. What? I don't want to talk to you, nor do I want to go. If you have something to say, can't you just say it over the phone? It's important. What's this about you paying for my mom's hospital bills? And you haven't paid this month's, that's just irresponsible. Irresponsible. Let me say this, I'm divorced now and have no obligation to my ex-husband. Yet, why should I be expected to take care of my former mother-in-law? Well, I could afford it and I did owe a lot to my former in-laws, so paying for the hospital bills wasn't a big deal. However, rather than leaving things vague with my former father-in-law, I decided to step back completely to make my ex-husband understand his position. But, my ex-husband probably doesn't know any of this, and him calling in a huff is just absurd. He's not in any position to get defensive. Where's the gratitude for me having paid the hospital bills until now? It's astonishing he can't muster even a bit of appreciation. It seems he has no inclination to thank anyone. Everything is taken for granted, and if things don't go his way, he snaps. A classic case of a lost cause. Irresponsible? Aren't you your mother's son? Then, isn't it your responsibility to figure out the hospital bills? Don't try to push that onto someone else. What are you talking about? That's your job. Huh? I was helping out because I knew about your debts. And you're not even grateful? When your dad asked for help with the hospital bills, you refused because of your debts, right? So, how do you think your mother was able to stay in the hospital until now? The moment I said that, my ex-husband fell silent. He must be aware that what he's saying is wrong. But, he stays quiet and doesn't apologize. I had no expectations from my ex-husband and wasn't planning to forgive what had happened, but I'm disappointed to the very end. Even so, suddenly stopping the payment of hospital bills is extremely unreasonable. It's a basic human decency. Then let me tell you something, I think it's also basic to act with your wife in mind, don't you? I wonder what someone who has been so selfish is saying. I'm not talking about that right now. And, why are you contacting me now, anyway? Are you begging your divorced ex-wife to pay for your mother's hospital expenses? I have no choice but to ask you. Do you plan to abandon my mother? Though my ex-husband might not know this, my former mother-in-law is already on track to be discharged. So, there's no longer a problem with the hospital bills, but my ex-husband's attitude about this is too much to bear. Have you forgotten how to ask for favors? You insulted me by calling me just a designer with no real income. And now you're begging me for help? Yes. How much were you earning, anyway? Hospital bills are pretty high. Where did you get that kind of money from? Do you know about the Sky Mansions downtown? The 30-story apartment buildings, I'm living in one of those now. Sky Mansions are among the famous tower mansions in the downtown area. He probably never imagined I could be living in such a place. My husband was stunned, or maybe he was just stunned. He didn't say a word for a while. I wonder if he is starting to regret divorcing me now. Well, he didn't seem to have married me for my money, and he's a bit of a stubborn husband, so I didn't think he'd show it in his attitude. What, so you were the one supporting my mom? Seriously, thank you. I'm truly grateful to you. Huh? What's going on? The way my ex-husband who used to look down on people has changed is a bit sickening. To flip his attitude like this. Does he have no pride? He used to talk about how he was managing with his own earnings, but as soon as he finds out I earn several times more than he imagined, he changes his tune. I wished he had kept his pride until the end, disappointing. I didn't expect you to be so grateful, so I'm glad. Thank you. But no matter how grateful you are, I won't be living with you. Don't say that. If there's anything you're unhappy with from before, I'll apologize and make improvements. And if you pay off the debt, that solves everything. Let's live together as a family again. I wish he wouldn't joke like that. The idea of me taking on his debts is out of the question, and it's infuriating to hear him say such convenient things. From what position does he think he's speaking? I wish he would stop, I'm reaching my limit. Don't take people for granted. If you keep joking around, I'll lose my temper, okay? And about the money, I think you'll be hearing the details from your parents. I have nothing more to say, so goodbye. With that, I hung up. He might come to my tower mansion wanting to get back together, but with the security in place, it's unlikely we'll meet. If he lurks around the mansion, I'll report him for stalking. My actions are decided. Moreover, my former in-laws have expressed their complete support for me, so I blocked my ex-husband's contact and tried to forget everything. Then, one day a month later, I was working from home when my former father-in-law called. Hello? Sorry for calling out of the blue. Do you have a moment? It's fine. What's going on? When we divorced, my former father-in-law said he would get in touch once everything was settled, but I didn't expect it to be resolved so quickly. Well, whatever the outcome, I was just satisfied to have gotten a divorce, and I was planning to listen to the aftermath as if it were a follow-up story. I've decided to cut ties with that fool. Really? You mean disown him? Absolutely. Someone who can't consider others at all isn't family. And I've decided not to leave him any inheritance. My former in-laws had been on my side, but after all, my husband was their only son. So, I was a bit surprised they decided to go this far. The inheritance probably refers to the house. My former in-laws didn't have cash, but they had told me the house was worth quite a bit. They had mentioned settling everything once they sold their family home when they borrowed money for the hospital bills. But, to not leave any inheritance? It's more accurate to say there won't be anything to leave. Actually, we're thinking of moving into a nursing home. A nursing home? My body is getting weaker, and living in a nursing home seems like a better option now. Plus, selling the house would allow us to move into a nice place, and we plan to spend our retirement there luxuriously. I see, moving into a nursing home. If that's what they've decided, it's fine, but until now, they were probably planning to leave the family home as an inheritance to my ex-husband. My ex-husband trampled over such intentions. Thinking about my former in-laws makes me feel terribly disappointed, but personally, cutting ties with my ex-husband was the right decision. With his personality, he might have continued to make financial demands, leading to further disappointment. Considering that, my former in-laws' decision was correct. Even though I'm divorced from my ex-husband, I received a lot of support from my former in-laws. So, I'm planning to visit my former in-laws at the nursing home whenever I have time. And about the money you lent us for the hospital bills, we want to pay it back. Will you accept it? It's okay, really. No, it can't be like that. It's money that has nothing to do with you. You guys were really kind to me, weren't you? That's more than enough for me. Please, consider it a token of my gratitude. I'd be happy if you could use it for your future. To the very end, my former in-laws were incredibly polite and never took anything for granted, warming my heart. How could someone like my ex-husband come from such wonderful people? That was the only mystery, but eventually, my former in-laws thanked me, and we agreed that the hospital bill money would stay with them. A year has passed, and I've established a design company. Now, employing 4 designers, I'm busy with work every day but living a fulfilling life. The company isn't stable yet, and I'm working every day, but compared to the days spent with my ex-husband, I'm genuinely enjoying myself and my days are shining. My ex-husband tried to remarry afterward, asking friends to introduce him to women, but with our divorce story known, no one was willing to be with him. I'm leading a happy life after divorcing him, but it seems my ex-husband is living miserably. What goes around comes around, and I don't feel sorry for him. Why he got disowned by his parents, divorced by me, and ended up without any friends, he needs to reflect on his actions seriously if he wants to lead a decent life from now on. Well, whatever my ex-husband does or whatever life he leads is none of my business. I have my own life to live, and I'll make sure not to let anything ruin it.